What is up? Happy Thursday, everybody. We moved the show on you. We're sorry. Marlo, thank you for being the good man that you are and adjusting to our schedules. We don't typically like to do that. I actually frown upon moving things quite a bit, but sometimes you just have to do it. Anyway, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Once I reached out, you guys let me on.
Yeah, dude. Well, we stalked you a little bit, and we're like, he seems like he can cut it on camera. So, I mean, he showed up with this mic. We're like already better than Jason Ackerman, so this is going to go well.
All right, yeah, I'll do my best. If that's as far as we'll go, then I'm
I mean,
winning.
it's a low barrier, Marlo, but it is what it is. But Marlo Hicks from CrossFit FFC, Fortify Fitness Collective, right out just north of Madison. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
We're just like right on essentially on the other side of Lake Mendota. I know you guys Yeah. So
dirty ass lake. Last year, no, 2 years ago, maybe. Right before the event, they're like, we need some of you guys to get in the water. And I was just like, I think it was either like Dave or somebody. They're like, you're going in. I was just like, all right. I got in the water and I was like, this is disgusting. It's not, I mean, it is by definition lake water, and
yes.
It's everything that you would think lake water would be. So, and what's interesting about that whole lake is the whole lake, for the most part, is about waist deep.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's not that deep. It's still water. And then you're at the height, when the games are here, it's at the height of, heat and humidity in the States. So
it's a gigantic puddle. But anyway, for those of you who follow the show, welcome back. Affiliate Hot Seat. If you're interested in being on the Affiliate Hot Seat, just if you could, we'll drop a link in the show notes here, or excuse me, in the comments and in the show notes. And then outside of that, please like, subscribe, share, send it to your mom, like whatever. Just if you like it, please follow us. It helps us reach more affiliate owners. But we're going to dive into Marlo's story, get the backstory, all that stuff. So give us the bumper sticker story, man. Like, where are you from? How'd you find CrossFit? How did you decide to make this your life's journey? All that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the journey really started long ago, but the big thing, I'm from originally, I claim like the suburbs of Chicago. I moved around a lot as a kid. But it really kind of started. I played sports whole life. Ended up rowing here at the University of Wisconsin at the end of that.
So you're a glutton for pain and punishment?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then pretty much like after I got out of the university, like I was burnt out and I was like, I'm never working out again because I don't need to at that point. And then kind of a couple of years went by and I realized that I actually needed that in my life. And my brother, my younger brother, actually like found CrossFit. He was playing D3 ball at the time, and his coach became a CrossFit coach. And he introduced me to the idea. I was kind of checking it out. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and and then my girlfriend at the time was like, "You should just go do it." And she's the one that like called out, signed me up, and told me to show up at this time. Shout out CrossFit Prime in Philadelphia. That was the first gym I stepped up to.
Shout out CrossFit Prime. Well done. You made an affiliate owner.
Yeah. So walked into there. That was 2011, I believe. 2011. Okay. Walked in there. Seriously, I think my third time in there was was that 11? Is it 11.2 or which was the open workout? Was just straight burpees. Was that 11?
No. Well, it was 0.1 something. It was 0.1. Okay. I don't know what year it was, but it was definitely 0.1.
Yeah, whatever. That was like my third workout ever. I did that, and then kind of as an athlete, was a member of a few affiliates like CrossFit Prime, which was cool. Bear CrossFit Bell, Delaware, where it was out of a barn she started out with. That was cool. Moved to Chicago. CrossFit South Loop, down, shout out them. And then when I moved up here in this area about 4 years ago or so, I really got into coaching then as well. So I was like doing a full-time tech gig and then coaching on the side. Kind of in somewhere in the middle there, I realized like I really enjoy the coaching part, love the entrepreneurial part. Like if I could make those things mash, then that'd be great. But wanted to make sure I enjoyed the grind. So like I was coaching like two different gyms, going to like coaching in the morning, going to work, coaching in the evening, just grinding away. And then like when we got all sent home in 2020, when everything got shut down, we had the gym, like, I was sitting there pretending to do my other job. I was thinking about, how can I make this or how can I make this a career? And the opportunity arose when the gyms in the area decided they weren't going to come back. And then was able to to purchase those assets and really get things started from there in July of 2020. And here we are.
So a couple things there. So your affiliate was basically born out of other affiliates that shut down. Were those due to COVID shutdowns?
Yeah. Essentially they tried to run it through COVID. Basically when the gyms had opened up again, decided it wasn't worth it. And just shut down from there.
Okay. And maybe I missed it. Were you coaching at one of these, or these are other ones that you weren't?
Yeah, I was coaching at one. I was coaching at the one. Yep.
Okay. How did you end up in Philly? I'm assuming it was like you graduate, you go get a job in Philly. What were you doing?
Yeah. I started in Chicago, and then I moved out to Philly, did for a job. I was working. I was working at a forensic lab, so doing testing on forensic tests that you would see in like your basic hospitals and
like real crimes.
Yep,
shows?
like real crimes. Yep.
Nice. Have you seen that? There's I believe it's on Netflix. There's a show. It's a series about this. I believe it's a woman. She was a forensic analyst, but she was basically stealing like heroin or something like that, and is like running a drug ring.
No, I haven't seen that one.
You should watch it if you like that stuff. So you spending a lot of your time just looking at a microscope? Is that what you're doing?
I wasn't on the science side of it. I was on the sales side. So there were a lot of people looking in the microscopes, and then I was just selling.
What are you selling? What does the sales entail?
Yeah, so you're selling the so if I was like the hospital side. So I would talk to like hospital or labs or local labs to get them to run their tests through our labs. So mainly like their drug panels and things like that. So
you're essentially like a third party provider, but like, oh, we can run these tests for you and we can do cheaper than those assholes. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Got it. And then what? So were you taking something similar when you moved back to Wisconsin?
Yeah. So in between there, I got into the startup game. I was working for a few startups in Chicago, and then we moved to Madison. I was working in a AI centric startup that analyzes.
You got Cody's attention. Cody turned his head when he said AI. Yeah. Cody and I have a long thread on ChatGPT and Whisper and all these other things that are going through the ecosystem right now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay, sweet. So you opened FCC about 2.5 years ago. So let's call it, you said midway through 2020. Is that about right?
Yeah, July 2020. Yep.
Okay. And then what was that like opening from scratch?
Man.
I asked because I actually don't remember what that was like. And when I did it, it was not today's ecosystem.
Right.
Like, had I done what I did, almost 14 years ago, I would have gone out of business immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I were to do that now.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll tell you this. I mean, it was, I knew it'd be a challenge, obviously. I didn't think it'd be as big of a challenge. I think like at that point in time, especially like around here in July, as far as like the whole, COVID and everything, we thought we were on like the downslide, we're getting over it. And like, obviously that wasn't the case. Here in Dane County, we were we were under like the most strict, we're in the state, I should say, the most strict county in the state as far as regulations goes. And I remember too, because I remember we opened July 6th, and then July 7th, I was sitting on the floor coaching a noon class, and then the press release went out that we're going to have a mask mandate that was going to be effective. And it was just like, oh shit, what are we doing?
Man.
But so like I said,
this is where I want to ask you your political leanings, Marlo, but I won't. You're like,
okay. Yeah.
No.
Well,
I think that was a
don't matter.
weird time where like everybody was just like, oh God, what is happening right now?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's it. It's like whatever. It was my first mind was like, what is everyone else thinking? So, anyways, working through that, and like I think the kind of the best things for me is I didn't know anything different. Because like you talk to other owners and stuff, and we talk about like, oh, the pre-COVID good days back then, those days, like I didn't know what that meant. So just kind of like navigating through that was everyone's first time, but it was like my first time without knowing anything besides that. So
yeah, it's one of those things, as you mature as affiliate owner, you're going to look back and be like, man, ignorance is bliss. It's that if anybody who's survived that, it doesn't mean that you're going to survive forever in the ecosystem, but if you can survive that, man, you earned, a decade's worth of scars in 18 months as an entrepreneur in that time frame, which just wild ecosystem. I'm not entirely sure that we'll ever see again. That'll be one of those things where like, yo, if you survived that, you get like a badge or some shit. And
people write books. There'll be studies about it,
dude. It's going to be a fascinating, socioeconomic and sociopolitical experiment, if you will. But I think it really did separate the wheat from the chaff in some sense with regard to thinning the herd and who really wants to be here, who has a level of acumen that warrants staying in the ecosystem. And for those people that made it out, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I don't want to see affiliates shut down, but to some degree it's okay if some gyms shut down. It is what it is.
Yeah. So. I feel like just looking around, it felt like it kind of sped up those things. So like some of the gyms that weren't doing it just sped that process up a little bit.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the affiliate. Like, give me some of the specs, right? So I know you got about 125 members. Yeah. How big is, like, square footage wise? What are we looking at?
Yeah, so I have pretty big. I mean, my floor space is about 2,400 square feet. Of floor space. I have a lot of floor space in the building that is not being utilized. Okay. I mean, a lot of square footage not being utilized for floor that I'm working on, but about 2,400 square feet of floor space.
And so that floor space that's not used, is there a little bit of echo there, Cody? Can you hear that? No? Okay. Anyway, maybe it's me. That floor space is not used. Can you get it back? Is there ways for you to rearrange or do anything like that?
Well, I should say this. My building, let me rephrase that. My building is about 5,000.
Okay.
I only like 2,400 of that is floor space.
Okay, so you have half of it. Got it.
Yeah.
And then that other 2,600 to be exact, do you have access to that, or that's a different unit?
No, I have access. I'm sitting in it right now, and it's just like there's different.
Oh, so you have 2,600 of office space.
Yeah, pretty much. There's like main area, office space, bathrooms, whatnot.
If you were to just, I'll try to ask this in a yes or no format. Is that an appropriate use of 2,600 square feet?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay. Do you have the ability to do a little demo party, like hand out some chainsaws and sledgehammers and air quotes fix some shit?
Yeah, it was fun. I literally had my landlord in here the other day to have that discussion. Basically, and he gave me the blessing. So I'm able to do that. Now it's about like putting the vision behind that and exactly how to do that. Make sure
that's cool. Well, I will do this for you. If you want to send me a schematic, I'm happy to chop that up with you and figure out like what would be the optimal means of doing that. That's my little weird hidden super skill is like
that'd be awesome.
So, okay. Yeah. Because I mean, if you were to, most CrossFit affiliators don't meet 1,500 maybe on the high end, depending on how large of a gym you have, but 1,500 is a lot of office space if designed appropriately.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. And this is your full-time gig, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think like part of that story was too, like, when we were ramping this up, I thought I would do both for a while. I thought I'd be doing my job in this, and then literally like 2 days before I opened, I was like, this is actually a lot of work. And one's gonna fail if I don't. So I just went all in on the gym.
I mean, kudos to you. That takes a lot of balls to do that. But I think if you really believe that and you commit to it, I find that it typically works out. Obviously, you need to make some good decisions and do things the right way. But it's I disagree that if you do this part time, that's a better variation. It's a forcing function for building systems, but with regard to a startup needs attention, and it doesn't need half attention because growth is like one of the hardest things to do, particularly when you're trying to get to like a break-even point. Like, yo, we got to make money. Yeah. So I think if people are in the position to do that, I'm like, yo, just rip the Band-Aid off and go. Because now you're forced to do it. I went through that when I transitioned out of the kind of nonprofit. So I went from military nonprofit, and then I was just like, all right, I'm doing it. And then not shockingly, the business had a significant uptick because I was just there, just tending to it. So on that note, kudos to you, man. Not many people in the space, or not as many as should be, are making a living, doing the CrossFit thing. Obviously, what we want it to be better, but well done.
Thank you. Go ahead. No, I appreciate that. I honestly, I don't know the other side of it, because I look at it and see how much we're doing here, and I don't know how else to do anything else at this point, or at the very beginning for sure. I'm starting to get into a place where it's like, all right, I could see that, but it took a lot of work.
See what? Maybe
like having something else, like doing something else.
Got it. Oh, meaning like you have enough bandwidth. You're like, all right, make enough money. Okay. Got it. Well, I think that's great. That's a slippery slope, but we could talk about that. But I think that's a great position to be in. So, okay. So let's just dive right in at this point. What is the thing that keeps you up at night? Like, what are you struggling with? What can I help you with? I know what you put in here. I have my thoughts about it, but I want you to tell me. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Yeah,
no problem. I mean, there's a lot of things that keep me up at night. And they fluctuate depending on
we're not going into conspiracy theories.
No.
I mean, if you want to, Cody and I always carry extra tinfoil hats, so we're good.
Yeah. But biggest like at this forefront, honestly, I don't think I remember what I put on the form, but I right now, as we speak, it's really getting leads in the door, so leads to book, right?
Okay.
That at appointment, because once we're in,
clarification on that, because you put in here help with marketing and social media.
Yeah, there we go.
Pretty broad pool, but let's narrow that down. So, more specifically, is the problem leads, or is it leads to booking?
Leads to booking.
Okay. So how many leads? You can answer this however you want, either per week or per month. Are you getting?
I'll do it per month. I'm probably looking around 15, 20 on a good month.
Okay. And then how many of those show up for a consult?
Right now, so our lead of the leads that come through.
Yeah. So 15 people hit your website, submit that form, which by the way, your forms are built correctly on there. So well done. Can you pull that up real quick? So actually, let's walk through this. Cody, can you pull up his website?
Yeah, I got it.
This is the first hurdle, right? So this is, if you think of sales as a series of 10 switches, right? So think light switches. No single one of those switches is going to solve your problem. Right. I would systematically and methodically have to, over time, switch all of them on. This happens to be one of them, right? So there's the mechanics of reaching out and booking. There's SEO. There's marketing. There's the actual in-person consult. There's the sales pitch. And then the last couple switches I refer to them as the verbal or sales judo of sales. And typically I don't really find that those are necessary until you get into paid, because most of the time you can get away with not having some of those things in place. Unless it's a paid, because it's a different type of lead. But so if the good thing here is both of those get started buttons at the top right and the big one here, as well as all riddled, they all go to pretty much the same form. Can you click on one of those, Cody? I don't remember if we covered this last time, but again, this is all you need, guys. And I would even recommend that you take out those last two pieces, like the how did you hear about us in the comment or questions. Just name, email, and phone number. Like that's it. All that other stuff you're going to find out when you reach out to them. So make it as minimal as possible. And I think that was the same thing. Pricing is the same thing, because I kind of scoured it this morning. So this is like the first of those switches. Like, is my website optimally designed to capture information? And that is what it should look like. So that was on point. So go ahead.
I don't know if I've seen a website that's got that has had get started 3 times on the first page. Like, that's pretty good. Like,
mine does.
You're hitting it every day.
Whatever.
Don't look at your website, Fern.
No, but that's what it should be. Like, there should be almost no scenario in which I'm on a website and there's not a call to action, a CTA, if you want to get nerdy, right? Like, there should be a CTA virtually everywhere, because you never know where people are going to come in, and I don't want them to have to navigate away from whatever page they landed on for whatever reason to give me the information. So, okay, so good job there. So in that scenario, Marlo, 15 leads, hit that form, and then how many of them do you get to show up for a consult every single month?
Yeah, so running rates, we're at 42%. So you're looking at like 5 or 6.
Okay. Do you get responses from the other, call it 55% or for 58%?
Responses? I mean, yes and no.
Meaning, like, do they ghost you?
Oh, like people that actually, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you'll get 42% of them that will respond in some way, shape, or form and show up. The other 58% is just nothing whatsoever.
Right. Yep.
Okay. What does that look like for you? Like, when you follow up with them, when you reach out. So I fill out that form. What happens? Walk me through that sequence of events.
Sure. When you fill out that form, we'll get a notification. So then, first thing is our KPI is to get in touch with them within the first 5 minutes.
Okay.
And so there is.
How do you do that?
There's by phone. That is the preferred method. If you don't have that phone, then shoot a text.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's the first method, and then a follow up. Depending, so if we don't get them, so we don't say we don't make contact, so to speak,
right?
Or there's nothing back from the text, then there's another follow up within 24 hours.
Okay. So, that's not a bad conversion. So we could go one of two routes here. This is kind of like choose your own adventure. So let's just say 15. So converting 42% of that, let's just call it 6. Just to play the numbers safe. So you are of those people that show up, how many of those are you converting? So let's go with the low hanging fruit, which is like the people that literally showed up.
Yeah. So of the people that show up, conversion rate on showing up is 85%. So like our close rate's 85.
It's pretty typical.
Yeah.
And this is, again, everybody thinks they're good at sales, and I'm like, they showed up, they reached out to you, they showed up. It's not hard.
Yeah.
So let's just call it 5, right? 6 show up, 5 join. So you're doing consistently 5 to 7 new sales every single month. Is that fair? Am I doing the math here correctly?
That's fair.
Okay. So in that scenario, now I have alternative questions, right? So we're going down a different path.
Yep.
The reason I'm going down this path versus like the other 58% is because this path is significantly easier to solve.
Yep.
Okay.
I think I know where you're going.
Well, do tell. Coach me, Marlo. Coach me.
Are we going to the other side? We can talk retention now.
Yes. Yes, we would be.
Yeah.
So what is your net number every month? If I'm selling 5, how many am I losing every single month?
Yeah. So net number is 3. We're averaging about 3 net a month.
How many are you net for 2023? Let me ask you a more specific question.
Very good question. I can tell you, 2023 we're net. Right now 8. So we're net 8. 2023.
Oh, okay, so you're growing now.
Yep.
Probably not super weird in Q1. Okay.
Right.
Now, so we're into February. So you're tracking pretty much exactly for what we would typically want for net 3. And for the record, this is not necessarily for you, Marlo. This is for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, we want more than net 3, but net 3 gets us to the goal. It just takes longer, right? Because I know some people are like, oh, you get net 3 doesn't work. I'm like, it absolutely works. Like, it's math. It's not even like hard math. It's just addition and multiplication, just over a longer period of time. So your retention based on these numbers is fantastic. So if you were to do 125 people at a 5% churn rate, let's round up and make the numbers worse. That'd be 7 people canceling every single month. So your retention here is probably, call it 96.5%, 97%, or call it 3.5% churn rate. Which is fantastic. I would argue you're probably not going to do much better than that. The problem is that number changes as you grow.
Yeah.
The math there changes. Now, if you're getting 15 to 20, and you're still netting 3, so you're signing up 6, you're losing 3 every month. My question is that just not fast enough for you? Because that number gets you where you want to go.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. It's not fast enough for me, if I'm being honest. I think, we're sitting at like 120. I mean, ideally, like my chart is I would like to be in that. I'd like to get to like that between 170, 180.
What does that do? You seem like a guy who knows your numbers just from talking to you. So what does 170 to 180 do for you?
Yeah, 170, 180, what that does for me, it allows me to, allows me to pay the salary that I would like. 1, 2, also put someone, me personally.
Got it.
And then, it allows me to put people in place. So I'm not, so I'm doing high level and have people have this, have the gym running. I don't want to say on its own, but it can be, I hate the word autonomous, but I can replace myself.
Number 1, don't feel bad about that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Number 2, if you're trying to run a business, you need autonomy. It's actually a requirement for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you move into the different seats, the problem solving becomes significantly more complex.
Mm-hmm.
And you need creative time. Right. This is slippery slope. We talked about it with Gordon and Annie last time, but it is required. You just have to be the riddle that has to be solved is like, where do I direct my time? Right. That's the name of the game. And most people will make the mistake is they would redirect it outside of the business. I'm like, no, just redirect it back into the business. It just doesn't require you to do the things. So from what I'm doing here is like you would like to see. I'm gonna make a guess here. Your number that Marlo wants to see gross revenue every month is $30,000 a month. Is that correct?
That's a start. That's step 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I want to what I really want to see is 50.
Well, go back to 30 first because it's significantly closer.
Yeah.
Right. Because I've fallen prey to this trap many times, right? Is I overshoot the target in front of me for the target behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And it never works. Right.
Yeah.
And here's why. I will tell you, having done it, what will get you to 30 will not get you to 50. Right. And if I skip the skill sets and the systems and the processes and the people required to get to 30 because I'm aiming at 50, I'll never get to 50. It's out of order. Mm-hmm. So what we would need to do is solve for 30 because now I can then solve for 50.
Right.
Because those are totally different animals, right? Because right now we're talking about an increase of, let's call it not quite 30%, let's call it 25% roughly. And then to go from 30 to 50, you're talking about a 40% increase, which is wild. Right. Yeah. As far as gross, right? Yeah. We could do all the math and be like, you can 16x your business and do all those things. Like that's real too. Right.
Right.
It depends on what my business model is though. Right. So how would we get to that number, right? So this is like an old Tony Robbins thing. There's 3 ways I can grow my business. I can get more clients, I can raise the price, or I can sell another thing.
Yep.
Right. So let's just say that I'm trying to get a 30% increase. Most people are like, I need to increase my membership by 30%, which is pretty much what you just stated.
Yep.
Right. If you're at 125, I'm not a math guru here, but let's just say 50 divided by 125, 40. Okay. So 40%, but let's use 30. Because if you got a 30% increase, I don't think you'd be upset about it. Some of those sleepless nights would go away. Most people are like, all right, I'm going to grow my membership by 30%. Oh, that's one way to do it. But realistically, there's probably 4 ways to do it. I can grow one of those 3 modes by 30%.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could grow all 3 of them by 10%. Or I could grow one of them by 20%. What's up, Corey? Or I could grow one of them by 10% and the other 2, one of them by 20% and the other 2 by 5%. Either way, it gets me to 30.
Yeah.
So what becomes the most reasonable means of doing that? If I look at my current structure, how I'm operating, my pricing structure, my billing cycles, all of those things, and mathematically reverse engineer this whole machine to give me 30%. And if we go back to the switches analogy, what's easier? Like trying to move this gigantic lever, or just walking down the line and switching on 10 switches that all equal 5% each? That's 50%, right? Might take a little bit longer, but those are significantly easier levers to pull on, right? So in that scenario, it's just like, could you raise your prices? And I'm not a huge fan of just arbitrarily raising your prices. I don't know. I'm just posing kind of a hypothetical question. That would be one way. Because when you look at the number, there's a lot of ways to get to that number, meaning 30K.
Yeah.
And immediately what we always gravitate to is, or I don't want to make any assumptions. Like when you think to get to 30K, what's the first solution that comes to mind?
Yeah. For me, first solution that comes to mind would be more people.
More people, right? So it's always the first one that everybody comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Well, what if you could do not as many more people, and that's not correct English, but not as many, but more, but not 50, included with potentially a price increase or potentially a billing cycle change, plus something that might look like some degree of premium services offering. And that's where it gets a little, it depends, right?
Right.
But all of those, or you could change the front end offer, because changing the front end offer has significant downstream effects. Or if I get a higher price point on the front end, that will carry downstream without ever actually changing my monthly recurring once they finish that kind of like front end offer, whatever that might be. So just a handful of things there.
Yeah. So these are all things that happen. So the price increase, I guess was that last year? Huh. Yeah, last year. That happened last year because that was the first, and then started doing the like the front end offers. The beginning of so I did before I did the front end offer. Beginning of this year, it had the higher ticket offers, right? So added in. Wasn't getting like the uptick on that, as I want you to be a couple here and there, but not wasn't the majority. So started the front end offer beginning of this year. On that as well. So
do you mind? And you, by the way, you don't have to answer anything you don't want to in the show. Like, we're not trying to impress you. Like, when you changed the front end offer, what did you change it from to? Yeah.
So initially it was just, went into recurring membership, to begin with, which, at their time was either $195 for unlimited, $169 for, 3 times a week or 12 times a month. And then,
got it.
What's that?
I got questions now. Keep going.
The front end offer. So the front end offer was $350 for the first 28 days. I'm
assuming that's including your onboarding plus their first month.
Yep, onboarding for the first month. Perfect. Plus nutrition coaching.
Okay. Okay. So I think that is fair, and right out of the gate, that's not where I would go first. So, because I think it's appropriate, maybe not optimal, but it's appropriate. If you don't know this number, it's fine. What is the breakdown of your kind of like unlimited package versus 12 times a month?
Yeah, as far as percentages of who has what, it's a good question. I know that I don't know actually off the top of my head.
Okay.
I have to go search, but I would, if I had to guess, it'd be around a 60-40 to unlimited.
So 60% unlimited, 40%.
Yeah.
To that 12 times a month. Okay.
Yep.
So, and then the difference there was like roughly $30. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, not saying this is the solution, but we're just doing a bunch of hypothetical scenarios here and doing the math. Let's just say I had 40% and I brought all those people up. We could just do some quick math here. Let's just say 40%. Let's call that 50 people times 30. Boom. 1,500 divided by. Cool. That's 18. Call it 19%. So if we were trying to get 30% increase, that's 18 of it right there.
Yeah.
Right. Now, again, you don't have to do that, right? But this is the whole point in working through these exercises, is to be able to map out all of the different ways that you can make it happen. And then you get to make the decision on which one of those, or all of them, right? Or half of them, or like the point is, it doesn't matter. You now know what all of the levers are that you can pull on. Because when I'm trying to go to grow a business, this now becomes the game, is actually understanding the mechanics of the business and what are all of the opportunities that I have at my disposal, some of which might be appealing, some of which might not be appealing. Now, that would be one of them. You don't have to do that, right? And there's a split the baby scenario here too with that one, because a lot of people get freaked out when you're like, get rid of the unlimited or the limited membership, and they're like, their palms start sweating and shit. Something we have found to be effective, not for everybody, right? So anybody who's listening to this is like, Fern told me to do this. I'm like, that's not what I told you to do. Okay. I'm just saying it is a thing. Is if people like that offering, you can offer it, but only as a new member option, meaning this window is not finite, but like say, hey, when you join, you get this for your first 3 months, and then it automatically upgrades. So I know that at the 90-day mark, my average client value for that particular person will move up $30 per person. So that way I don't have to get rid of it. I can still use it. And what you'll find more often than not is a lot of people will, if I'm tracking attendance correctly, will upgrade prior to that. Yeah. Right. But it's non-negotiable. Right. Because again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to create healthy habits and lifestyles. And 3 times a week, while some people might say it's adequate, we all know that it's not. We'd like to see them 5 to 6 days a week, because we're creating people that are really dedicated to their health and fitness. And there's no reason that they can't do that if we're going to be very honest with ourselves. So like that would be one option. The other option is looking at what would be the ways that I could increase my lead flow without spending any money.
Yeah.
Okay? So I definitely am not in the camp of like, oh, your lead flow is fine. I mean, that's a relative statement. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Either way, we should all be constantly figuring out how to increase the lead flow, not at the expense of breaking the machine. So I was looking at the other stuff you put in here. You only coach 6 classes a week, which means I don't know how much. Do you do any personal training or anything like that? Like, no, clearly there's other things to do in the business. So I'm not gonna be like, what are you doing with the other 34 hours of your week? Like, so what is, if you're only coaching 6 hours on the floor, which is fantastic, by the way, like that for me, 8 to 10 a month would actually, like, you would get to check the boxes, Jim Mayer. Essentially, you would be like cutting yours in half is what you would be looking to do. And like, now you're legitimately the Jim Mayer. So because you're coaching 24 a month, which by the way is a super reasonable number for an owner operator, just for the record, everybody. That's a beautiful number. You could sustain it for a long time.
I'm happy with it now. It wasn't always that way.
So I have no doubt. I remember those days of just like, I wake up and then I'm like, and I'm back in bed, and I have no idea what happened between those 2 points. So how are you spending your time outside of that? What are the other things you're currently working on?
Yeah, good thing. So yeah, the big thing I'm working, well, that's just that, like in trying to increase, well, I think I put that in there because like doing marketing, social media, and then finding those other things to bring leads in.
So what things have you tried, right? So like, I think your social media is fine, dude. Like you're clearly good in front of a camera. You know how to put reels and stuff together. Typically I would gauge people like scroll down a little bit here, Cody. Also there is this, nobody likes to say this, but like there is a point of diminishing return with regard to how much time you put here. There just is. But Cody, you're the, I would consider you to be the specialist on this call with regard to social media marketing. I would give these, like I always gauge people or kind of grade them based on thumbnails when I scroll through their feed.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're scrolling through this, like, do you see anything glaring? I don't. I scrolled through quite a bit of it, and I'm like, I mean, could it be touched up? I'm like, yeah, but like, is it going to affect anything? I would have one thing that I would add, but first, Cody, I want you to give a little assessment here. Mardi Gras, I like it. I see. I'm going to New Orleans tomorrow, bro.
No, nice. I mean, like whenever I'm looking at an affiliate's their social media, I'm looking for a few things. Like, are they showcasing normal athletes? Right? Can anybody look at this and go, oh, I can walk into that gym and feel comfortable? Right? That's what I want to see. 2, events, right? Like Mardi Gras, like cool. This you're showcasing a little bit of the community.
Yeah, they're not losers. They party.
Yeah, they're not losers. They party. Yeah. And then things like the commitment club, things like that where you're giving shout outs to your people, right? So that's something that maybe it's a little bit more community member specific. That's cool too because it helps keep your buy-in. And we were talking a little bit about like your professional setup, and you've got a podcast where you bring in people to do those member testimonials and coach testimonials. Like that's really cool stuff to get out there.
I mean, I'm assuming you have that mic there, Marley, because you do a podcast. Do you do a podcast?
Yeah, we do a podcast. The gym, and I was telling Cody earlier, like just kind of get members in, kind of tell their story.
And then how are you using those obviously, well, maybe not obviously. What do you do with that content?
Honestly, dude, I just put it out on the podcast feed. Okay. And that's really it. Like I'll put a post that something's out, cut a clip maybe once.
So obviously, well, you could do a couple ways. Like I feel like you probably do have time to do a little bit fancier version of this, but the easiest version, right? Correct. Feel free to chop me up on this, Cody, is grab an image, go into Headliner, slap a snippet of the audio, like something that sounds cool and awesome, slap that on the image, post it on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right. The thumbnail needs to be good. Make sure it's a compelling picture.
Yeah.
But I feel like I would imagine that there are some pretty awesome stories in that podcast. You don't need to capture all of it. You just need to capture 90 seconds of it where they said something that was like profound for them. Right. And that would speak to people. And then this is what we're all terrible at because we're CrossFitters and we have a fucking problem asking people for things. CTAs, right? Like CTAs in, like, Cody, we were just having this conversation yesterday.
Yep.
Like for us, so like, hey, we need more CTAs, right? Like, because we always forget, like you have to compel people to make a decision. Be like, yo, call me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can put CTAs, like clearly you are no stranger to Canva based on the things or I don't even know. Are you doing these?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, so you clearly know how to use Canva or whatever you're doing this in.
Yeah.
Put CTAs in here and then beef that up. So that would be one thing, but like, I think your social media is solid, man. Like I would just maybe put a little bit more flavor on it. The podcast is great. Clearly you're the personality of the gym, which I think is great. You're kind of in that spot now anyway, at least meaning like in your maturity as a business.
Yeah.
Call to action, highlight the podcast, Headliner. It's super easy. I used to do it. I need to get back to doing it or have somebody else do it, quite frankly. But like just record the podcast, pull a 90-second clip out of there, have a little sheet of paper next to you and you're like, oh shit, that was dope. Just like mark it on your watch and then like write down a number on the piece of paper so that you can pay attention. And then throw it in Headliner, slap a good picture on it, slap that quick audio snippet in there, and then post it. That would be one thing. The other thing is looking at obviously you're doing committed club, you're tracking attendance.
Yep.
What other internal or kind of like back end marketing strategies are you executing? Right. So I don't see anything in here about, and I know people who like bring a friend week, and I'm like, okay, don't do it. I don't care. This is like the argument about like mobility. They're just like, you keep talking to me about mobility. I'm like, fine, don't do it. I don't give a shit. But when you still can't put your hands over your head, don't come crying to me.
Yeah. No, we did it. If you scroll up at the top, you'll see it's we did Vendor Friend Week. Did modeled after the one you put out there.
Yep.
A little bit ago. What's that?
When was it? Sorry.
When was that? Must have been.
Oh, is it with these two ladies? Is that right
no. You'll see it. Like literally says "bring a friend" on the thing.
Anyway.
Anyways.
So how did it go?
There it is.
I see it.
January, end of January.
Okay, so right there, that would be something I would change, right? So click out of that, Cody. If we're going to get critical on this, when you look at that thumbnail, look how that thumbnail reads there versus when you click into it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that, adjust and squeeze that text in tighter so that you can read it here and when you're zoomed out for the in this format here as well.
Yeah.
Also way more of these.
Mm. So yeah, I think that was the first time you ran it. You asked me how it went. I'd say okay.
How many people showed up
throughout the week? We had 13 throughout the week.
That's a win for your first one.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And then out of that, I think we converted one.
Okay, cost you nothing. What do you have a referral offer?
We don't have I put one in to during that for the friend of the week, and then I just kept it ongoing. I haven't advertised it as much as I should. So this is probably a portion of the problem, right? So I think this is an additional light switch. Yep.
If you have to, Cassidy and I were just talking about this yesterday, where there's been a little bit of a drop off in our communication at every single point in the client's journey of the referral offer and how it works. So the reason this probably didn't land is I would be willing to bet if I walked into your affiliate today and just started canvassing your members, few of them would probably be aware of this offer. How do you feel about that?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the whole thing. And for everybody who's listening to this, like, I cannot overstate this enough. The entire purpose of running Bring a Friend Week is to pitch the referral. Doing one without the other is as good as not doing it at all. Okay. So I'm going to set everybody at ease here. Be like, well, it's going to feel like I've said this to someone blue in the face. Like, it's not weird when you pair them together. There's some things that just naturally go together and it's not weird. If I'm just running around yelling referrals, it's weird. If I do Bring a Friend Week and I don't really tell people why it would be beneficial to them, that is also weird. Not as weird. Putting them together logically gives you the ability and the right to over communicate this thing. We have this thing. Here's how it is valuable to you. And you can bludgeon people to death because it's a logical pairing. People hate things that don't make sense. The end.
Yeah,
that makes sense, right? I've made the joke. It's the mayonnaise effect, right? If you're walking down the street just eating mayonnaise out of a jar, super weird.
Yeah.
Right. If you're walking down the street eating a sandwich that had mayonnaise in it, nobody would think twice about it. Mayonnaise is the referral offer. Bring a Friend Week is the vehicle or the sandwich. When you pair them together, nobody notices because they make sense. So I would urge you, repackage that, bludgeon it, right? So multiple emails for the announcement of the referral offer. It should be pitched in every single person that you make a sale to. There should be a follow-on email sequence about it that reminds it to them. Bludgeon everybody. Like, get one of those little foam fingers that like has 40% off and Bring a Friend Week and just slap people with it when they walk into the door. Make announcements at the whiteboard for 2 to 3 weeks prior to Bring a Friend Week to let people know what it is. And the other thing is 40% in your scenario is less than the number. I know that because yours are in line with mine. Use the $75 or $80 as as the offer versus the 40%. So this is another one for everybody. If I have 40% or a number, always use the larger number, because $85 sounds bigger than 40%, or $80 sounds bigger than 40%, even though they're the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So play around with that kind of stuff. That alone will help you. In addition to, I was just talking to somebody else this morning, like reach out to everybody that's canceled in the last 6 months and run like a reinvigoration campaign and make them an offer they can't refuse. You know, and that doesn't always have to be free. You can value stack in those scenarios and make the offer overwhelming. Be like, yo, if you come back this month, we're getting ready to run a nutrition challenge or something else, I'll roll that in for free. So that's a $500 value as you come back in and get started for $190. And they're like, oh shit, that's compelling. I need to get my life together. I think I'll do that. Right. So those would just be a handful of things that I would roll in there, in addition to, this is something I looked up. So Cody, can you pull up the Google search that you had earlier?
Yeah. Whenever I Google that, you want me to just Google the name of his gym or CrossFit in Wanakee?
CrossFit CrossFit. Well, either one, right? And this was the whole point. Yeah, you don't show up well in search was the point. And I don't know if you found the same thing, Cody, but that was what I found. When I Googled CrossFit FFC, the games page showed up, and then I had to scroll literally almost down to the second page before your website showed up. So you get out of this block, and then Lyft is popping up before your gym shows up, right? So like that's a problem. So now some of that has to do with
Lyft.
The unless you're running a side hustle, Marlo.
No.
You're like, hey, and I'll pick you up.
and I will say, like if you were just in the city and you wanted to Google like CrossFit Wanakee, then he does show up at the top. But if somebody was looking for your gym, specifically CrossFit FFC, you don't show up at the top, right? You're way further down.
Right.
And there's a lot of ways to do this, and everybody thinks it's just the name of your gym. It's not just the name of your gym. Like the concept of SEO is an extremely broad, overarching strategy. So you would need to look at Marlo, like keywords in your landing pages and things like that. And I'm pretty sure yours is just a single scroll, is it not?
Single scroll,
which is fine. And what I mean by that, everybody who's looking, who's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like when we say like infinite single scroll, meaning like there's no additional pages on this website. All of those menu or those headers just basically go to pop-ups. But everything that you would need to find is on this single page, that it would just automatically divert me down to whatever that portion of the page is, which is fine. Most people don't need more than that. But in here, we would want to see more keywords, obviously tagging, meta tag, stuff like that. And that's a little bit more of a longer strategy, but it pays off significantly at the end. I might get in trouble with this, but I'm going to say it because I think it's good. So I was talking to some folks in the marketing, and they were talking for HQ, and they're talking about like I think there's like 15,000 articles in the journal, like some fucking obnoxious number of articles and content. They're all PDFs, which means it's 15,000 pieces of content that have no search engine attached to them. Like the fact that CrossFit doesn't own virtually every term with regard to human movement is fucking nuts. Right. And they're going back and they're like, we're fixing all of it. And they're like, and we think about in the 6 months, they're like the fact that CrossFit doesn't, like, it's not the first thing that pops up if you Google in anything with regard to deadlift, squat, or whatever, is quite literally insane based on the number of CrossFit gyms, if we're talking about backlinking and other stuff, and the amount of content that they have produced over a 20-year period is probably unrivaled. It's the equivalent of like a medical journal with the number of publications that they've done. So all this stuff matters, and you can start to weave those things in. And if you wanted to, you can get into blogging. It wouldn't be hard to probably add like one blog page to yours, and you could come up with a long-term strategy with regard to CrossFits in my area, CrossFits in I keep wanting to say Waukesha, but it's not Waukesha.
No, Waukesha. Wanakee.
Wanakee, yeah. All that stuff, like those are fairly easy to do. gyms near me, best gyms in my area, stuff like that. We know the terms that people are going to search. So we just start playing around with those.
Yeah.
And
so
on
that
note,
was one thing. That was one thing that I definitely saw in there, is that, like, organically speaking, you could have a lot of improvement. Go ahead, Cody.
Oh, just on that note, if you do decide to add something like a blog page, you do this podcast, right? You're familiar with AI. You can take the podcast, have it, scripted, and then now that lives as a readable blog that's on your website. That's probably got tons of keywords because of all the things you guys are talking about inside of your podcast with your members and your coaches. It's like, okay, like you're really starting to drive the algorithm in your favor there.
The other thing in there is I'm giving everybody information that will be valuable in 6 months, by the way. Like, this is a fact. As CrossFit goes and corrects all their stuff, everybody should be backlinking to CrossFit.com. Every gym, if you write the word CrossFit in a blog or an article or on your website, specifically blogs, it should backlink to CrossFit.com, because the benefit of that long term is nuts. Okay. And there's and there's no downside to it. So just something else to consider. But dude, I think you're already on the trajectory that you want. It's just a little bit more engagement on your end with things like Bring a Friend Week. And again, Bring a Friend Week is not the end all be all solution. When done correctly, it's nuts. We just had somebody just broke the record yesterday for attendees. Zev they're in South Carolina. I'm getting that wrong. 185 CrossFit. I think it's 185. I might have just made that up. Sorry. 60 people showed up for Bring a Friend Week. They converted 20 of them. So it does work, right? Did he freeze? Did Marlo freeze? Did we lose him?
Oh, Marlo. He is frozen a little bit there.
Oh no, he's back. He's back. He's back.
Sorry.
No, you're good. What I was saying, I don't know if you heard me, Marlo, but I was saying is like the Bring a Friend Week is not the thing that's going to save your gym. It's one of many strategies when layered on with other strategies. Again, think light switches. Like, if it's not on, just know that I'm not operating at full power. But I think that reaching out to all the old people, creating an enticing offer, again, that's low hanging fruit. And then little strategy, and we probably don't have time to get too deep into this, is like with those people that are ghosting you. So like we went down that one path and that's where we spent all our time, because that's easy, low hanging fruit. The other path is, how do I get those other people to show up? How do I convert 30% of the 58 that were ghosting me or whatever? That number, that no-show number, is a true indicator for the most part of one's ability and understanding of sales, because it requires an entirely different skill set with regard to understanding, like, how would I de-risk an offer? How could I stack value adds that would get them to show up? Do I understand how to build an irresistible or compelling offer? And then do I have strategies or incentives involved for something like fast action, meaning a fast action incentive? Like, if you join this month, kind of what I mentioned earlier with the reinvigoration campaign, if you join now, you get this. And they're like, damn, how could I not take that offer? Right. Yeah. And you can build 100 different variations of that, which be like, yo, if you show up to the consult and this is a waste of your time, I'm going to give you this 12-week meal planning cycle that we made that typically people pay $200 for. But that alone is worth the 20 minutes of your time to show up in here and do this. Right. So thinking about things that would get them to show up, in addition to continuing to follow up. The biggest drop off, first thing we fix with most gyms, I'm like, call those people back. Right. Comes through. You're clearly doing that. The second thing is re-engaging them. And this sounds ridiculous, for infinity.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're listening to this, I'm getting ready to hurt your feelings. You're like, gosh, fuck, he's talking to me. Most people, if I was to go in there and I was to look at the sales funnel, wherever you're capturing that, once they're outside of 30 days, the likelihood of any sort of meaningful engagement past 30 days is virtually zero for most people. I'm like, put them back into a different cycle and re-engage them. Again, what is lost in that scenario? We always massively underestimate the life cycle for certain people, because the ones that we convert, let's just say that you had to cover 100 yards. They covered 95 of the yards before they reached out. Those people that are not converting, they're still on the 5-yard line in their own side of the field. They're like, I'm making my way down the field, and they're like, oh, fuck it. It's not easy for me to punch it into the end zone with you. So I'm just going to forget about you. Instead of re-engaging them and get them a couple first downs to get them closer to me, at which point they're more likely to do that. Now, you're going to whiff on some of those. Some of the people are going to ghost you forever. But the purpose is the practice. If I want a true, well-oiled sales pipeline, you have to re-engage those people. And preferably I'd re-engage them and provide them value instead of just try to sell them some shit.
Right.
So, what do you got for me, dude? Shoot.
Yeah, I had a question on the bring a friend. The frequency. Well, would you say like that was like a once a quarter thing, or?
Yeah. So we tell people minimum of 3.
Yeah.
The 4th one is super dependent on the number of things the gym has going on, but minimum of 3. What I find is that probably less than 50% can squeeze the 4th one in without it feeling like pressed and out of place. Most people can get 3 really, really well promoted, stress-free bring of friends, no problem.
Yeah.
And then you run those forever. I've been running them for probably 5 years.
Yeah.
And I still get the lowest I think we've had in years is low 20s. On the high end, we'll get 30, high 30s, low 40s. People show up and convert 7, 8 of those, depending on what you're doing. Like the conversion will fluctuate over time, but the point is it doesn't matter. It costs me nothing to get 30 people every single time into my ecosystem so that I can play the long game.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And then quickly going back to your to our search or keywords, Google Find. Like I know I can assume that Googling CrossFit FFC probably wouldn't do it. I spent a lot of the time like getting like more towards like gym near me, CrossFit gym near me, all that stuff. And then kind of I want to get your opinion on the other stuff behind that. So there's the keywords aspect of it. We're working on getting Google reviews, having pictures up on Google, all those things that kind of go back there. Would you say that's accurate to still spend time on as well?
Yeah, they all matter, right? Again, I keep going back to the light switch analogy. Everybody's just like, well, that one switch didn't fix my problem. Like that's not how the board works, right? Just because one thing didn't get what I needed, it might need to be attached to something else, or I might need to get the Google reviews and then use them somehow, right? So if you're not using social proof inside of the sales pipeline, that would be one misuse of the tool, right? So obviously it helps in SEO, but then in the sales pipeline, I would want to use that social proof as like, yo, people are super satisfied with what we do. And that can be part of when they're coming through the sales pipeline. Maybe I send them some of the Google reviews, be like, yo, check out what people have to say. And then if you really want to get, Jedi status, like you send them a Google review from an avatar that is like them,
And I would also say like you can use these Google reviews as a sort of post on your social media as well. A lot more people are going to see it on your social media than they are on your website. I know you've got like a widget on your website that says, don't take our word for it. Check out these reviews. And I was looking at your reviews. You have recent reviews, which are good. Like one that was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, or like they're not 9 months or a year old. So these are fresh reviews that you could just screenshot, crop, make it look pretty so that it shows up on your Instagram thumbnail for somebody to quickly read and be like, oh, okay, that's cool. I mean, that's easy.
These are great reviews. Some of these are like 3 sentences long.
Yeah.
Like use them, put them like exactly what Cody does. Like we do that. Meaning like best hour, we do that. That's what it's for. And again, this is the whole purpose is like, I've got it, but that could only be 50% of the equation. I'm like, what did you do with it? right? Because if it just sits passively over there, that's only part of it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
This would be something that I would be trying to put one of these out once a week. If you have them that frequently, like come up with a template in Canva or whatever you use that you can easily just swap the text out and just say like Tuesdays are my review day. And I'm just going to have that auto post, boom, 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 boom. And so every Tuesday you're going to see one of those pop up, but it's going to be fresh in someone's feed.
With a call to action.
Yeah, got to.
Which means like check all of your backlinks, check your link tree, check all of that stuff.
I will say this too. Instagram's got a new thing where as you're making a post, you have the option to add a button. So if you look when you get ready to make a post, it'll say add a button. You actually have to click that, and then it'll give you options of what kind of button, like call me or send a message or whatever. Use the send a message click. So now whenever it shows up right underneath it, it's kind of like an announcement, but it makes it very easy for them to click that button and immediately leave you a DM. So if somebody's trying to get in touch with you, bam, it's right there.
I just learned that right now, Marlo.
Yeah, I haven't seen. Okay.
Well, I mean, like you have to stay like, you get consumed with like making the content and stuff, but you also have to stay up to date with like what's going on with the platform, what updates are they rolling out, and then utilize those things because they don't send you that. They're not like, hey, Instagram, here you go. Here's all the new things we're rolling out this month. They just do it and then hope people use it. So you gotta kind of play around with some of the settings and whatnot to maximize the platform for sure.
Dude, I think obviously from talking to you, you're a sharp dude. From what I see that you're doing a lot of things really well. And this actually is one of the sticking points for a lot of gym owners. You're like, okay, I'm doing things pretty well. Now get into like the fine tuning of the knobs in the machine. And that's where a lot of people become frustrated and, just frustrated. And because this is where the nuance comes in. This is where like all the strategies, the things that are not immediate return start to come into play, but all have like long-term impacts on the business because you start turning some of these knobs and then, because you've got 6 part-time coaches, like then you get an extra player in the game, things start to speed up. So, anything else we can help you with, man? This has been fun.
Yeah, no, this was good. This was all good stuff. I probably could go into it if we if we looked into other aspects, but yeah, this is good. I would, I know we don't have time, and I'll listen to your other ones, but one of the like second tier is coaches development, right?
That's a whole podcast by itself. Marlon.
I know. That's I'm throwing it out at the end. So
it's like here's a grenade.
Yeah. Kind of throw it out at the end, like this part. But this is good. Like opening up the top of the funnel. Is a big part, and then capturing that top of the funnel, making sure they're getting in as members, and then we'll get to the other side of delivering on what we promised. So
that's something we've been playing around is like what's that visual is that, and our contention is that like the business side is at best 50% of the equation, right? So think of the Venn diagram: sales, systems, marketing, and then you cut that Venn diagram in half, and then the whole other side of that is like your service. And you cannot thrive without understanding that concept.
Can't fake that part.
No, you can't. But hey, the good part is that CrossFit works. And even if you didn't know the difference between your knee and your elbow, people would very likely get fit. So, cool. Well, dude, I hope this was helpful for you. Cody and I always love jamming on this stuff. So I hope you got value out of this, man. And if not, then I will offer you an additional free coaching call if you would like one.
No, appreciate it. No, it's very, very valuable. Appreciate you guys' time and let me hop on as well. And when you guys, hope to see you guys around in Madison this summer.
Oh, we'll be there, dude, with bells on.
Yeah.
Doing the podcast stuff. And then we'll follow up with you afterwards. We'll send you some stuff too, just for coming on the show, man.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Awesome, brother. Thanks. If you guys want to be on the hot seat, fill out the form, the progression as well. If you want to get some coaching review done outside of that, subscribe to the podcast, and we will see you next time.